The first rule in grip sport is you tell everyone about grip sport.
Crushing, pinch grip, thick bar, wrists.
If the best guy in the world can't lift 100 pounds on it, I don't give a shit about it.
All right, everybody, we have another recap here at the Grip Show, and I'm your host, Zach Mullins, as always. And not only do I have the hosts of the Greenville Grab with me, I have the overall winner with me, and I'll kind of let them introduce themselves here real quick before we get started. So, yeah, whatever order you guys want to go in, you guys can do a little intro maybe.
All right. Hey, everyone. Andrew Brodgen, one of the hosts and competitors for Greenville Grab. Kick it over to Zach.
Zach Staniewicz, co-host, Greenville Grab.
And Jake Fuller, competitor from 2024 Greenville Grab.
Competitor, but also the overall champ. But we'll get into that as we break down results. So a little bit of a spoiler there, but everybody's probably seen some stuff from the competition already. So Zach and Andrew, I know that you guys have been involved in strength sports and different, grip-based things throughout the past, or you know what I mean? How exactly did the Greenville Grab come about? Could you kind of just walk everybody through your process of coming up with maybe the name or how you guys teamed up and then the event selection and stuff like that?
Sure. So a while back, I was actually training for the Arnold Open, and to try to find some implements, I went on Facebook Marketplace, saw a guy that had a lot of stuff for sale, and found out he was 10 minutes down the road from me, and it was this guy. So I'm like, dude, we need to get together. And he was very cautious because he's like some weird dude on Facebook wants to come over to my house now. We ended up getting together, lifting for a session. And in the midst of that session, it was really his kind of thing. He was like, we should host a comp. And I was like, that sounds really cool. I don't know what it looks like. I've never done it before. And then he kind of came up with the name. I don't know where Greenville Grab came from, but
I don't know, man. I was just thinking about G, you want something that rhymes, that goes with it. I don't know, dude. I just thought of it. I forget where or when, but yeah, it worked out, right? Greenville Grab, they go together. So, but yeah, it actually happened here. I'm in my home gym. Right? Andrew came over, lifting stuff, and but yeah, that's pretty much how it started, man. I haven't been to a whole lot of competitions, travel's tough in the grip world, but always wanted to. And I knew he had the strongman experience, going to a bunch of competitions. And I had a lot of implements and some of the base knowledge. And I was like, between both of us, we should be able to do something that's decent. And yeah, that's pretty much how it all started.
All right. And then Jake, from a competitor standpoint, was it the just location of how close it was to you being in South Carolina, or was it like, oh man, these events are something I can actually get up for? Did you like the event grouping too, or probably a combination of all of it? But what made you kind of want to jump in the mix?
Yeah, it really was a combo. It was too close to pass up. It was right on the leading edge of my vacation, so that worked out great. When Zach and I were talking about the events, grippers for me have always kind of been higher baseline, so I was like, that's cool. And it kind of had some carryover from the Super Series, from the sanctioned bar training, from stage 1 of the Super Series. It was helpful. I love a good medley, so even if I had to travel twice as far, I still would have for the event. And it was cool to come out and support Andrew and Zach too for their inaugural competition. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, right. So this is your guys' essentially first one, but you've kind of made it known that you're planning on trying to make this an annual thing and continue on with that in the future. So yeah, hopefully that'll happen. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure a lot of the other people are too. For your first competition, do you want to kind of break down how many overall lifters? Was there about 25 lifters total? I'm going off memory, but if you have better numbers than me, just shout them out.
Yeah, 25.
Okay.
Yeah, we were really happy with that because my one and only kind of exposure to the grip world was the Arnold Open, which had 26 competitors. So in our first few meetings we were planning this, I remember I think 12 was our number. We're like, we could get 12 people here, that'd be awesome. and then we went and doubled it. So for our very first
Yeah.
show, we were really excited that we had such a turnout.
Okay. And I know we kind of spoke about how the event came together. What was your guys' mindset when you were kind of choosing the events?
That was all Zach.
Well, you know, Zach, like I said, I haven't been to a whole lot of comps. I watch a lot, and you know, with your show, you've done a lot of really good interviews, and you've asked that question. You know, what are some events that, you know, kind of cover the whole spectrum? And I've taken some notes from some of your interviews and what other people have done. Right, you want to hit all the aspects: crush, pinch, thick bar, and you know, like a vertical bar, and all those implements were you know, pretty common implement. I didn't want to some one-off implement one has, right? And they're all iconic. You know what I mean? It wasn't like someone, I don't know, came up with it last week. And there's a lot of history behind all those lifts. And you know, the gripper thing doesn't get tested a lot. You know what I mean? Like I got like 10 grippers, but you know, you can't just put like a smaller frame person on one of my lower grippers. But anyway, I saw Matt Cannon. He was advertising the competition set. So I was like, there you go. So I reached out to Matt Cannon over at Cannon Powerworks, and he got back to me right away and said that, you know, I have it reserved. I think I did it about 8 months prior to. Logic was I wanted to do like the bigger lifts, right? Everyone talks about it. Like a guy with a 400-pound double overhand axle is going to do fine on, I don't know, inch pinch or one of them small key pinches, but it doesn't go the other way. So that was my logic, right? I want something that tests hand strength, that covers everything. And you know, that's pretty much how I came up with that. And it's all aspects. And yeah, you know, just through my experience, all those lifts carry over into other lifts. So that was my logic.
Yeah. And for the competition, just so everybody's aware, we had a max gripper close with a 30 millimeter block set, 3-inch Saxon bar, little bighorn to a 6-inch crossbar, and then an inch dumbbell medley. And we had different increments for the women's lifters and the men's lifters, but essentially 4 different increments and a 2-minute time limit to max out your dumbbell or max out your reps for that medley. And we can get into how that was scored maybe a little bit later here, but yeah, so that was the rundown of the 4 events. So with that being said, yeah, I think it was an awesome event selection. I had a lot of people reaching out to me that, you know, weren't within driving distance and absolutely weren't going to be competing, but they were a little bit jealous. They were like, man, that looks like a good one. You know, that's cool. You're getting ready to go to that one, you know? So I think you did a great job. Just kind of putting everything together, especially being the first competition out the gate. So, I thought it ran awesome. I mean, that's my opinion as someone that's there, you know what I mean? And obviously we're doing the recap now, but yeah, I had a good time as just a regular competitor and thought that, everything leading up to it, promotion, the name, the event selection, posters, the, you know, banner that you guys have behind you that was there. I thought the attention to detail that you guys put into everything was no different than, you know, veteran competitions where guys have been hosting for years and years. It didn't really have much of a different feel to it. You know, even though it was your first one, it was same as the veteran guys hosting almost, you know? So, yeah, not much difference there.
Thank you.
So, did you want to start with maybe the women's lifters division, or start with just, we can go either maybe by women's or men's lifters, or we could just go each category of, you know, gripper, Saxon and whatever, and kind of go that way as well.
I guess we could do events, and we'll start like do it by events, and then start with the women and kind of go from there, I guess.
Yeah, no, that would be fine. Yeah, so we kind of just break down kind of how your guys' thoughts were with the gripper event and kind of how some of the women performed, and then yeah, we'll dive into the men's stuff from there.
Yeah, so I think it's worth mentioning that for women, unless I'm mistaken, and when somebody please reach out and some comment or something correct me, I think all 5 of our women competitors were all first time competitors. in grip. I know we had some other competitive competitions they've done, and we owe a lot of that to Gabby Delaney. Gabby Delaney really kind of kicked the ball off for most of our female competitors, getting some the word out for our competition. Unless I'm mistaken, most of our women competitors up until that day had not even closed a gripper. They were brand new. I saw Gabby and Ariana Toro actually warming up with the barbell clips before because they had no idea where to start. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, I think our top lift for the females was let's see, those are weight class. It's like we got up to 50 pounds.
Yep.
With the top lift, Gabby with the 50-pound close for the female. So definitely an impressive since she had never touched a gripper prior to this competition. You want to talk about the male?
Yeah. So male, I got it ranked here. Jake over there, Jake Fuller had a 170 close, which was our top, and he was like, I think the next close was 145. There was like 5 of us that closed 145, but Jake was like, he kicked us to the dust. He's like, I'll see you guys later. I'm going up here, which is super impressive. So Jake with 170, and then let's see, Matt McCall, Jack Palmer, Staniewicz, Mullins, and we all had 145. So anyway, Jake blew it out of the water. A bunch of 145s, and a couple 130s. Hilton had a 130. Matt McCall, who's in the lightweight, had a 145. So, some pretty big closes at the top there. And like Andrew said, a lot of these folks
Matt pretty new to grippers.
Yeah, a lot of them are new, so it's still pretty impressive. You know what I mean? It's more one of the more technical aspects of grip. So I'm sure with a lot of training, a lot of these numbers are gonna go up. So
Yeah, I mean, you have Jake. I mean, close to 3.5, or 3. Captain's a crush 3.5. So you have at least one person who closed the 3.5 with like I said, 30 millimeter block set, which isn't an easy task. But then just to kind of show the depth, like you mentioned, 145 might be on the weaker end for a number 3, but you still had 4 or 5 other people that were closing a number 3 with a block set, even if it's a low number 3. So I think that's still pretty good depth in a competition when you can see, numerous number 3s and a 3.5 get shut when you're having some sort of set, in there as well. So yeah, it's just a strong group for sure. Yeah, and like I said, that kind of maybe covers most of the grippers. From there, it kind of went into the 3-inch Saxon lift, and like I said, all the women that were lifting were probably first time competitors or new to these implements. So any of the numbers or results we're going to be getting from them are going to be probably the first time they ever touched this piece of equipment is during the warm ups. So not necessarily making excuses, but you have to understand that this was a competition that had, a wide variety of everything from new people and their first time touching these implements to what would probably be considered, veteran lifters at this point. So, good range, but so 3-inch Saxon, and you guys can kind of break that down or get into that however you'd like.
Yes. Once again, on the female, Gabby Delaney, I won't say she ran away with it because Ariana Toro was hot on her heels. She got 80 on her second attempt, and there was some back and forth there between the two of them. They were both kind of staring each other down on what the attempts were going to be. I think Gabby technically had to pick first, so she picked 90. And I might be misremembering, but I think Ariana actually tried to go for the kill shot and get 95 and missed it. That definitely a hunt to the finish there on the females with that Saxon. And I mean, even for first time lifters, both of them had some experience because the bar that we used at the competition was at the gym. So they'd had a little bit of shot. So 90 and 80 pounds for a first time competing on the Saxon, definitely respectable. But then, like you said, with depth, the other females were all right there with them. I think the lowest Saxon bar was 40 pounds. And then they were all up there in the 70s, 60s with them. So definitely a good little heat run with the women there. I'll let you discuss
Yeah.
the men.
Yeah. Saxon bar, I think there are a lot of really good numbers. So for the lightweight men, let's see, Matt McCall had let's see here, 190. There's a bunch of 190s. Matt McCall, 190. Andrew over here with 190. Nicholas Johnson with 180. I mean, those are some solid numbers for that weight class. I mean, even in general, those are some solid numbers. And then for the heavyweight, which is 220 plus, I don't think we mentioned that, right? So heavyweight 220 plus, lightweight 220 or below. There were some really big numbers, and King of the Hill is our guy Nate Powell.
Goodness gracious.
Who's like, I don't know, he's been in the game 3 months. You know what I mean? And he pulled 260.
265.
Yeah, 265. And I think he fell at 280.
He went for 280 for his third. 265 was his second attempt, and I'm looking at the scratch sheet from the competition. I think 250 was his very first attempt, and that would have already been the top lift of the entire competition, and he hit it on his first attempt. So definitely some major numbers that went up with the Saxon bar. I know several people got on the world leaderboards, both in the Armlifting USA and the grip sport leaderboards on that Saxon lift.
Yeah, I think Hunter Heath hit 240, which is definitely up there. I know it's a PR, lifetime PR for him. That was a big deal. I hit a PR at 235, and I mean, Zach, I think you and Jake hit 230, which are great numbers, and it was definitely very competitive, you know, around that 230 point, and we were all kind of motivating each other. And I know for me, I get nervous, man. I haven't competed like y'all, but yeah, it's like, how do I pick? Where do I pick? And yeah, it's you know, training numbers are cute and all, but yeah, comp numbers, it's tough, dude. You don't have any redos, so that was, I don't know, one of the fun parts of competing. For sure. So
yeah, it might be worth mentioning. I don't know. I mean, Jake could tune in on this here, but I hit 230, and then I had an attempt left and went up to 235 and failed it. I broke it off the ground, but it just wasn't going to be there. So 230 was going to be my max. I want to say that Jake hit 230, but that was his last attempt, and I believe he had more in the tank, but he could speak to that probably more than me, for what it's worth. I know we only get credit for what's on the score sheet, but for context of in person and being at the event, I think Jake probably had 235, 240, or, you know, something in that range probably in him.
I would have liked to try that. It was a lesson learned, even though I've been to a few competitions already. It's just always learning, but I kind of made too conservative of a choice for the first attempt. Kind of unfamiliar bar. If it was my own bar, I might have known where to start a little bit more. But you know what? It was still a good spot. And I think what if I failed 240, I would have dumped a bunch of energy into it. You know, there's always that potential too. So blessing in disguise, maybe. But lesson learned on that. Another thing that was really cool, I believe it was Gabby had one of her final attempts was dropped. It was kind of, when you see that, it's atypical to see somebody rally and pull the lift off, but she did that, and that was pretty cool. I remember, I'm pretty sure it was her. It was able to regroup and then pull the lift off, and was pretty psyched about that. I always like to see that. Oh, that was cool.
Her husband. So we had a husband and wife combo competing, both first time grip. Her husband Chad did the same thing. If I'm remembering correctly, he was probably pretty conservative in his efforts as well. But once again, never having touched a Saxon bar, he actually came to me probably the week before the competition. He's the owner of TriFit Barbell. They were gracious enough to host us, and so he came to me and said, "Hey, Drew, what do I need to do if I wanted to hop into the competition?" I was like, "Man, just show up that morning and hop in. Like, we're not gonna charge you. We're not, just, you know, come on out and have some fun." So he did hop in. I think he had a lot of fun, and he did end up pulling 205 on the Saxon. And once again, like Jake said, it was a rally. He missed it the first time, and I guess was just kidding, and pulled it pretty easily on his second attempt. But,
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's always good when you can see somebody come back, because once you start getting up to those maximal weights, yeah, once you give that first squeeze and then you're like, you know, having the pressure on you to do it in a 30-second or, a minute time limit, whatever it may be. Yeah, very rarely do you see somebody just be able to bounce back and kind of, unless it's a super big technical error or something friction wise. But even then it's hard to make those corrections in that time window. So, yeah, always good to see it though. And yeah, I think with Nate lifting this, I'm just going off memory here. I want to say that is, and obviously we're talking, sanctioned, but for Grip Sport International, I think that puts him number 2 overall for the second highest Saxon pull at 265, because Jason Denji recently bumped the record up to 275. So, and Nate, kind of had 280, almost breaking off the ground. I saw a training video of that. So, a lot of potential, considering I think this might have only been his second grip competition. And like you mentioned, he's only been doing this for a couple months. So his baseline on the Saxon is already kind of off the charts. So, yeah, just being within 10 pounds of the GSI world record is a big thing. Now there's obviously, Armlifting USA, there's been some bigger Saxon lifts pulled over on that side for the 3-inch, but yeah, anytime you can basically start off in world record territory, that's a pretty good sign. And I think if Nate continues to stick with it, that Saxon's only going to improve a little bit more. And then if he can round out some of those other lifts, I think it could be a future problem for a lot of people. Just a lot of potential there. So just like I said, for what it's worth, that's kind of my opinion. But yeah, I like seeing him stick with it and, hopefully get some of those other lifts up on the level of his Saxon, or at least, closer to it. And then it's going to be tough to score points on that guy if he, like I said, rounds out his whole game.
For sure.
There's a rumor that it's actually his hand that's on the poster behind you, Zach.
What is that?
I said it's a rumor that it's actually Nate's hand on the poster behind Zach.
Oh,
For the
right.
grip
Oh,
show.
the poster. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure which banner we were talking about there for a minute, but no, yeah, I got you. But yeah, no, yeah, Nate's hands, like he can get his thumb set like halfway down the back of the Saxon bar, and then still his fingers can almost wrap underneath of it. Now, obviously, that's not how the lift is conducted, but just so everybody can kind of envision the hand size we're talking about. Yeah, monster pinch and a monster hand. So like I said, sky's the limit for that dude if he just keeps competing and keeps training, man.
Sure.
Then we get into the vertical lift of the competition, which is the Iron Mind Little Bighorn, kind of probably the most contested vertical handle in grip strength history. Just from the King Kongs and everything else, if we're being honest. Now, I know Armlifting USA hasn't really contested it as much anymore, but even for a period of time, they did. So, I mean, Little Bighorn has been around forever. And like I said, probably almost the most contested vertical handle, if you had to go like by each competition. So there's a lot of other lifts out there to kind of scale it off of, because there's just so much information and data on it. It's been used so much. So, yeah, you guys can kind of go into that, but yeah, the Little Bighorn was a pull to height, to a 6-inch crossbar. And yeah, I'll let you guys kind of take it from there if you want to break down how Little Bighorn went.
Yeah, the Little Bighorn, probably one of our most unique lifts. I had never got to compete or really too much train on it. I lifted it a couple times over here at Zach's house. Women did pretty well with that. I think Gabby Delaney, you're going to hear her name a lot, ended up taking the overall win with that with an 85. Laura Palmer, though, we haven't mentioned her name yet, right on her heels with 80. She came with her husband, Jack Palmer. Yes. And I think she was a last minute sign up, wasn't she? Didn't she sign up like that day? So yeah, she was a last minute that day sign up and coming within 5 pounds of the win on that thing. And there's a scratch on her last attempt. She was going for the win, I believe, with 90 pounds. I remember her attempting that, just wouldn't want to break off the floor for her. So definitely some big big cool lift from the female side of things.
And then on the lightweight men's, Andrew over here, you pulled what, 170? It says here?
Believe
Yep.
so, yeah. Somebody glued the 180 to the ground when I walked up there. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, Andrew pulled 170 with like pretty much one training session, which is pretty darn stout. And then after that, let's see here, you had who's in this thing? It's not cooperating.
This dude named Jake Fuller, I think he took the top lift. Is what I'm showing a 215.
Yep, for the heavyweight.
Looks like he was pretty conservative with his jump, starting at 200 and at 215. Other big jumps or big lifts there. You had Hunter Heath opened up at 190, and then just decided to leave it at that. I think he missed 200, and I think we had another 200 pull. What did you pull on that, Zach?
I think Zach Mullins and I think we both pulled 190, which is a PR. Is it 190? No, I lied. I pulled 185. You pulled 190, which is a PR for me. Now, one thing I want to say, like the little bighorn, I don't know y'all listening, but yeah, it's a friction lift to me. Like the seasoning, I mean, I thought it was pretty well seasoned, and but yeah, so that was a huge PR. I think it's a 15-pound PR for me, or 10 pounds. So anyway, I was pretty happy with that. Going back to some of the lightweight men, I think we had some other pretty big lifts over there. I think Nicholas Johnson, he pulled 150, and he hasn't touched that at all.
Yeah, Nick. So he works out at TriFit as well, and we got some just vertical pins in the gym there, and he would train for the little bighorn. I saw him in there all the time, just literally just vertical grabbing the pins to get some work with that vertical grip. So to go from that to lifting up to 160 on the actual implement, because I can attest that little bighorn's a different type of implement. It'll jump out of your hand. I'm curious to hear about Mr. Fuller and his 5-pound jumps there. Would you like to speak to that? Were you trying to be more conservative or just filling it out?
What is it? I forget what was my first one. I think I only took 2.
So I got you at 200, 205, and 215 for your top.
Yeah, I just kind of knew where I was in training, and that I didn't want to do what I did on the Saxon again. I didn't want to do too much of a conservative opener, so I think I pushed the ceiling a little bit, and it was feeling good off of that. I remember having one attempt left in the tank though, but I didn't see the reason to kind of push it and fatigue it already with that lead in the event, so I left it at 215, and I honestly, though, I'm not sure, there might have been 220 in there. There wasn't a whole lot of confidence factor after 215 to think I could go 20 or 30 pounds higher or set a record. I didn't think I was in striking distance, but it did feel good, and yeah, the conditions in the gym actually are pretty good for most of those events on Saturday.
It was moist in there.
Oh,
Yeah.
hot. Oh yeah.
Another kind of cool mention about the little bighorn. So and I don't know if it's Louis or Luis Ramos. We actually had an overturn on his call, the judge. So we were lifting for a height, so we had to hit the crossbar, and there was some question about his lift, and I think Zach Mullins was the one that ended up affirming that we had made the right call, because when we watched the video, I don't know who had put it, but there was literally a piece of tape on the end of the crossbar, and on the video, the only way that you could tell that it touched it was the tape moved. The bar rotated, and which was just enough to tickle it to get that bar to move ever so slightly and move that tape. And so originally the judge had said that it wasn't a good lift, but video review, we ended up calling it back and giving him that 140 lift, which was huge for him. I think.
I was gonna say, I want to say that that might be the lift I kind of chimed in on, but yeah. All I remember was, at least for one of the little bighorn lifts, the dude lifted it, the knock bar swung out to where it missed the crossbar, and he was just like statically holding it like 3 inches above the crossbar, and he held it for like a second, and then kind of sat it down like, it didn't hit. Is that good? And I'm like, I got to walk over and make sure that the judge doesn't like DQ that or like, count that as a no-go. Cause it's like, just so everybody understands, when pulling to the crossbar, if you have somebody for some reason, the knock bar and the crossbar don't make contact, but you can visibly, like the judge can visibly see, like there is no doubt in this judge's mind that the height exceeded the 6-inch mark and they follow the lift down and all the other rules, then that's a good lift, but it kind of goes to judge's discretion. But if you have a judge that maybe isn't fully aware of those rules or something like that, it'd be very easy to say, oh man, it's got to hit the crossbar, didn't count. And it's like,
Right.
dude was holding it like two inches above the crossbar and he was like doing a timed hold with it. So I'm like, yeah, that lift is absolutely good.
It's
So
kind of
yeah,
like
I
a
don't know if
parallel.
that's the,
Veteran lifters.
well, and I'm not sure if
Yeah.
that's the lift that you're referring to there, but I think that if I'm remembering it right, that might have been it. But I was like, yeah, you got to give that guy the lift. That's the right call. So, but yeah, no, that was pretty interesting. And that's just something that it's a good thing that you point that out because there's been several competitions out there where similar things have happened and people kind of go with their gut instinct that, hey, it didn't make contact, didn't hit, doesn't count. And they don't realize that. I don't want to say you can overrule it, but like I said, kind of judge's discretion, as long as that judge can basically verify it. And in this case, like you said, someone actually had video of it, which is always nice if you can kind of go back and maybe get a second look at it or something. But yeah, usually the judge, it'll be kind of their discretion on something like that. So yeah, good deal there. Anything else to add on Little Bighorn for you guys?
I think we're good.
Okay.
No, I mean, Jake blew it out of the water again. I think 20 pounds above the next highest Little Bighorn. So
Yeah, somewhere around in there.
anyway, yeah, I mean, it's pretty
Yeah.
amazing look, dude.
And that's the thing, man. I know that Hunter Heath's
should.
really good at vertical bar, or vertical lifts. And I know he went from like 190 and I think he made a 15-pound jump to 205.
Yep.
And I think he missed at 205. I had 2 attempts at 200, and I think on my 3rd attempt, I maybe missed the knock bar or crossbar by about 2 inches, maybe. But yeah, like I opened so high. I mean, I opened at 190 because 180 felt like there was nothing on the pin. Like, if I'm being honest, how it felt at 180, I was like, I'm pulling 210 today at least. So I was probably going to go like 190, 200 will kind of be another warm up. I'm pulling 210 today, which would be a comp PR for me. Problem is 180 flew up like there was no weight on the stack. And then 190, I don't know if the texture changed or my hand changed or something, but 190 did not feel near. I mean, obviously we added 10 pounds, but it felt like 30 pounds got added for some reason at that moment. I felt like it was kind of slipping on me. And I hit the 190, but then 200 was just giving me fits. And I don't know. It's almost like around the 180 to 190, the handle almost changed for me. And I just couldn't get, I don't know if I was just maybe fatigued from, doing other stuff before that. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was a fatigue thing. Maybe it was a texture thing. But yeah, I was feeling really good about 180. And then as soon as I pulled 190, I was like, I might be in trouble on this one. But yeah, I thought I was going to do better than I did. But yeah, no, like I said, hats off to Jake for going through and still pulling 215. I said, I don't know what it felt like for him, but for me, once we got up around 200 pounds, it felt way worse than the 180, 190. And he just powered through. And like I said, outdid everybody by about 25 pounds there. So yeah. So yeah, keep going.
So the flip side of the spectrum, the thing that brought disaster for one individual in 6-inch Little Bighorn, Jack Palmer, you'll see this, man. My heart goes out to you because he misjudged warm up slightly, and when he went for his first attempt, he missed his first attempt. And I mean, looking at the scoreboard here, he would have easily knocked me down a spot on the podium if he'd had a little better luck with that first attempt, if not taking the top spot on the podium. So there's always, that's what I tell people all the time. Every competition I go to is try to learn something. There's always something to learn, because he was having a heck of a comp up until that lift. Then he blew out the inch out of the water as well, that we'll get to in a second. So,
What
I appreciate you in a very weird way.
what did he end up lifting? Are you saying that he zeroed on the event, or?
Correct. He went
okay.
for his first lift, and the way we kind of set the attempts was, if you miss a lift, as long as you have attempts left, you can reattempt that same weight, or you can go up, but it's rising bar, so you can't drop the weight back down. And he just judged the warm-ups got him or something. Something didn't go right for him with that first attempt.
Gotcha.
And spelled disaster, unfortunately.
Okay, yeah, I got you. I'm seeing it on the score sheet now. So yeah, that's the thing, man. With just having 3 attempts, you don't want to be too conservative, like Jake mentioned, where you kind of leave some pounds on the table. But you also got to be a little careful. You don't want to go getting too aggressive and then end up dropping a 0, because then you just removed your. I mean, that'll kill you in a grip competition. I mean, really any competition, you 0 an event, especially. And this would be a good time to mention it. The way you guys ran the scoring was basically like just similar to like a powerlifting total. We'll just say powerlifting. You have your, squat, bench, deadlift. Here's the total. Well, you just basically had a formula for the inch medley, but for the other lifts, it was just, what RGC gripper did you close? What's your Saxon number? What was your little bighorn lift? Add that up. And then once we get to the medley, you had a score for that. So it was basically just adding each thing for a total score. So yeah, putting up a 0 on something like that, I mean, you're putting your 3 events up against everybody else's 4 events. And like you said, they're kind of bigger, heavier lifts too. 200 some pounds for Saxon. You're not going to make up, 200 plus pounds on people if you drop that 0. So, but yeah, that is something to learn and kind of pick up on as far as strategy goes. So, yeah, good to note that and good to point that out. And you said he had a lot of other good lifts though as well.
Oh, sure. He was tracking. I had my eye on him because he was tracking to be on top of the lightweight podium. If that had not spelled disaster for him, him and Matt Clare were neck and neck. And like I said, I owe my spot on the podium to him with that little blunder. So
just a little note on him. I talked to him a little bit after the contest, and I asked him, say, "Hey man, you been training?" And he's like, "Oh, not really." And I was like, I mean, the dude closed a 145 RGC gripper, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Closed a 145. Took me a long time to get there.
And he got the full inch too.
Yeah.
I think he was the only lightweight guy to get the full inch.
So I mean, yeah, it's pretty remarkable. Anyway.
Sorry.
That's good to point that out. I mean, that's another lifter that has like we mentioned with Nate. Yeah, we had some veteran lifters that have already kind of, been around and maybe a little bit known. But yeah, the crop of newer or upcoming lifters was very impressive to see as well, because there's a lot of depth there. Like I said, you have a guy that, Nate took an event win over everybody by, like you said, he opened up 20, 30 pounds, almost heavier than everybody else. And he's just been doing this for a couple months. And then you're talking about guys that haven't really trained this, closing number 3s with a block set, lifting the inch dumbbell. That's especially in competition environment where, it's not like, hey, take your warm-ups and, chalk everything perfect. And, whenever you get to feeling good, go give the inch a try. It's like, no, we've already been lifting for like 4 or 5 hours at that point. Numerous attempts, you're getting tired, your arms are kind of, your hands are tired, you're kind of like, man, I don't know how this inch medley is going to go. So you still have a first time lifter, maybe unknown to most people, but like I said, like you guys said, kind of delivering almost like veteran level lifts, but being newer. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, it's good to see the sport grow, and it's good to see other strong people kind of get into the mix with some of these events and just how well they perform.
Sure.
You guys want to kind of venture into the inch dumbbell medley and how you kind of set that up?
We're gonna let Zach start to explain this calculus formula,
Yeah.
how it was scored.
So, all right. As far as I know, Zach, you chime in or whoever chime in. There obviously medley's been done for hundreds of years, whatever. But I've never seen an inch medley and inch dumbbell medley, and I got a couple inch bells. You've inspired me. You got all the inch bells, and I was like, dude, we need to get this inch bell thing going, and I was just trying to figure out, how can we incorporate it with adjustable handles. It takes forever to take the weight on and off, so I was like, all right, medley it is. And then I knew we were gonna have women, so I called my wife in, said, honey, come out to the garage. She doesn't lift, and I try to find a weight, so I loaded up to 50 pounds. And she lifted it, she's not like, she's not big or anything. So I was like, all right, we got a starting point. That's how I came up with the women's. And then for the men's, I had, a little more experience seeing different men lift bells. And with Andrew, talking to Andrew, we figured out 100 would be a good starting point. And then obviously I didn't want it, I didn't want Zach Mullins lifting 100 pounds, 30 times. That's boring, right? So I was like, all right, how am I going to do this? So I have, I sell whatever adjustable handle inch dumbbells, handles. They're 2 3/8, so I can load them up to what I want. So I said, all right, let's do 25-pound increments, and let's do a point for every rep thereafter for the lowest one, 2 points for the second tier, 3 points for the third tier, unlimited 4 points for the fourth tier. So that's what was going through my head. I ran it by Andrew. It made sense to him. So we did 50, 75, 100, 125 for women. And then for men, it was 100, 125, 150, 175. Inch bells, weights don't spin. They're one solid mass. We had a globe bell for the 175, a Selene 175. And yeah, I knew I wanted an inch. It hasn't been, from my knowledge, a medley like that hasn't been done. I've seen farmer walks at like Mighty Mints. They've done the farmer walks, but I wanted something that everyone can be involved with, and I wanted a good starting weight. So, I don't know. Maybe that's the backstory of how I came about that. So,
No, it's good, man. And yeah, there's been some competitions where they've done some inch or maybe blob medleys, but yeah, you don't see it very often. And I do like how you kind of chose to create that formula, at least, for this particular competition, because one thing I've noticed with certain competitions that do medleys, it's one thing if you have like a percentage scoring. Now, like I said, it's hopefully I'm going to be able to like relay this information properly. But there are certain competition formats where people in the past, it's almost as if the medley's weighted. If they have like 3 events, because it's like you could have somebody that like wins the first 2 events and they could win that by a pretty good margin. And then someone kind of like, oh, just did 4 more reps on this one medley. And then, oh, that overturns the other 2 events. And they might not have truly been the most well-rounded grip person. So with the way your scores came out and how close the scores were, I think it was weighted properly, the same as any other lift, to where, you get that accurate total at the end. I think it made sense. And like I said, if I'm just going off of memory here with some of this stuff, like obviously if you made it to that 4th dumbbell, which would be the inch dumbbell, each, you get your first rep just to get your 175 baseline or, whatever. Then if you lifted a second rep, well, that bumps you to 179 because it was the 4th bell. So then it's just basically adding 4 each rep. You come up with a total score.
mm-hmm.
And everybody, roughly for how many reps they did or what bell they got to, it kind of matched all their other 3 events. You didn't have somebody that just got like destroyed went 0 for 3 on 3 events. And then they're just like an inch bell monster. And then that can trump the other stuff. I've seen that happen in certain things where one event gets a little too much power. And you can see a specialist come in and not necessarily be the best, but still kind of pull off a win. So no, hats off to you. I think that was a good formula. And at least for this setting and this competition, that worked really well because I think it fit in perfect with the way the scores were tallied up. So really good stuff there.
And I'll brag on old Stan a little bit more. So with this formula. I'm not trying to, but also the way that there was you could essentially max out one of the lower bells. So I come from a strongman background, and the medley you see most often, I'll nerd out on strongman for a second, but it's like a stone medley. So if you load the stone over the bar, you get so many points. If you shoulder the stone, you get so many points. Or if you press it over your head, you get so many points. Well, if somebody just sits there and shoulders it for the entire time, they could accrue more points than the person that pressed it overhead, because it takes longer to recover from a press. And so you got somebody doing a less impressive lift, beating the person that did the most. You couldn't do that on this medley. If you could only lift the 150-pound dumbbell, you were never going to beat the guy that could lift the 175. So that was kind of a cool way that the formula worked out as well.
So if somebody was on that 150 bell, you could do as many reps up to the 175, but there was a cap. You could not exceed that to where, I just did 20 reps on the 150. I beat the guy that lifted the inch, even though I couldn't lift it. So it gave the it gave the win or the credit to that the biggest bell beats any amount of reps on a lower bell. And then that stayed true for that formula. And then, like you said, once you get over the 175 and up, then, there's no reason to necessarily have a cap on it there. And it's a 2-minute time limit. So that kind of is the cap. You're going to run out of time. So, really good precautions there.
Thank you.
I think we saw a really cool thing with the inch dumbbell. I think people really got to see grip strength in action, because what I tell people all the time is grip strength is one of those things that it's there until it's not there at all. So we saw people that could, lift the lighter bell until the time ran out, but could not get that heavier bell. So the females, the scoring once again, Gabby Delaney led the females. She ended up with 99 points, which was maxing out the 75-pound bell. Which was pretty impressive. You see a little bit of that strength versus endurance that came out in that lift a little bit. Gabby's a power lifter / rock climber, so that endurance really came out in there. Other females stuck right there with her, though. We see 60s and 70s hitting those that lower bell for reps. What was impressive, that I thought was impressive, we had 4 people talking about the depth of the competition that actually was able to manage to lift the inch dumbbell throughout the entire competition, and some of them multiple times. So since this was one of the guys that did it, and Fuller as well, I'll let y'all talk about the lifts on that dumbbell.
The inch dumbbell medley. It was new. I didn't know how it was going to go. Andrew started it off, and how many points you get, Andrew?
Only got 149.
You got 149.
Worst event.
And how many reps is that? So you lifted
I maxed out the second
125.
the 125.
You maxed out the 125. I went second. I was nervous as heck, and I think I lifted it 5 times. And then me and him got back to judging and timing and stuff. But Zach, you came up and you killed it. I think you had 207?
207 points.
He's like 9 reps. He's about 9-10 reps in 2 minutes. And then
I enjoyed watching Zach fail one lift on the inch and smack his hand as if his hand was to blame for all of this.
That was my left hand on the first lift. I was going to get an easy lefty lift, and it died on me about halfway up. So I was just kind of messing around, I guess, for the crowd or whoever. So I kind of hit my hand work. What's wrong with you? And then I rattled off some back on the right hand, let the left hand catch up a little bit, but yeah, it kind of screwed me over a little bit there. Like I said, I did well on the event, but it would have been a lot smoother if I just had, 1 or 2 of those lifts. I had a couple, probably about 2 or 3 partial lifts that were like 70% up, like at my knees or almost above, and it just kind of rolled on me. So I think I pulled 9 reps. In theory, in a perfect world, maybe I could have gotten 12-ish in. Like I said, if everything was absolutely perfect, but man, we're talking about a pretty hot day. You're just constantly having to ramp up to a max on a lift and then cool down ramp back up. You know, you're basically maxing out over this long period of time on 3 or 4 different things. And I wasn't feeling the greatest, so I wasn't sure going into it how that was going to go. But seeing you kick things off, Zach, and really be the first person to rep the inch that day, I saw you do like 4 or 5, and I'm like, oh shit, like he's not messing around. Like I'm gonna have to do something now. And then you know, I'm kind of waiting, and then it gets to Jake, and then he just like beats you by a couple reps or whatever it was, 2 or 3 reps, and I'm like, oh shit, like
199 points. So
it's like 7. You know, Jake, how many was that?
I'm sure he counted.
Yeah, I thought it was 6 or 7, somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah.
And man, yeah, so once I saw you guys kind of going, I was like, man, okay. I'm like, I kind of dropped the ball on Little Bighorn. I know I'm not the greatest gripper guy, even though I tied for second technically in this competition. And then Saxon having, you know, Zach, I mean, I personally, I mean, I knew Nate was going to be there, and I figured Nate would outlift me. I wasn't anticipating you getting me by 5 pounds, and then Hunter Heath also going 240. So me and Jake both tying for 4th place wasn't something I had anticipated. And I do spend a lot of time lifting the inch dumbbell and doing different feats. So I was like, man, this is kind of a lift I'm known for. I'm like, I can't have these guys kicking my ass at a lift I'm known for. I'm already like, I'm already losing these other events. I'm like, so I got to kind of wake myself up a bit, man. So I was feeling it, you know, I mean, as far as like being a little tired and some lifts not going too well, but I was like, man, you guys kind of motivated me. I'm like, man, I got to kind of get off my ass and do something now. So I had to kind of start pumping myself up a bit. And like I said, go out there and just pull as many as I can, you know. But Jake, what was your thoughts going into that? Like I said, I mean, you took second right behind me in that inch bell medley, and you had been killing it all day with your other 3 lifts. What what were you kind of thinking, or what were you shooting for there?
Oh, well, I knew I had to also wake up as soon as I saw Staniewicz pull off the 4 or 5, whatever it was. My training with that wasn't where I really wanted it to be. I had sort of simulated other lifts like Little Bighorn and Saxon at my house. Then I would pull out some adjustable bells in my inch. And there was a few nights where it just was not coming off the ground, and it was frustrating. So I kind of had some nerves going into it, knowing it was the 4th bell on the 4th event. So I saw Zach's performance, and I'm like, all right, I've got to do something. So once it started rolling along, I got more and more confident. It felt good. But hats off to you. You put on an absolute inch clinic. It was awesome to see that. But I
had to do something after the first 3.
You certainly did.
But yeah, like I said, that was one of the main reasons, not the main reasons I wanted to do the competition. I was going to do the competition anyway, but yeah, you throw an inch dumbbell medley in there, and I was like, okay, yeah, that was one I was kind of looking forward to. And also, like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of grippers, which that's not an excuse. If you go into a competition, you sign up for it, you know that's an event, so it's up to you how much you want to train it. But I knew that I wasn't going to be winning grippers. I kind of knew that I probably wouldn't win the next 2 events, but I'd probably be closer than I thought. And with Saxon and Little Bighorn kind of being friction lifts, you know, you don't know how that bar is going to feel until you kind of get there and you're warming up with it. You don't know how Little Bighorn's going to feel until you start warming up with it. So just having that thick bar lift at the end, where I'm like, okay, I don't really have to worry about the chalk as much. This is a little more familiar to me. I don't, you know, there's no, it's like, it is what it is. And, you know, how much juice do I have left, and what can I do with this? So I actually felt, like I said, pressure from you guys performing so well, but I also kind of felt a little more comfortable because I was like, okay, I don't have to really think anymore. It's just pick the thing up. Whereas with Saxon or Little Bighorn, I'm like, you know, hand position, how I'm going to stand, different things. How does the chalk feel? With the inch bell, it's like, okay, as long as it's remotely, you know, decently chalked, I don't really need to do much else other than that. Maybe use some chalk breaks in between to use your time wisely. But yeah, so I kind of liked that. Just kind of not having to think or overthink things. But yeah, no, that pretty much wraps up the events there. And if you guys want to kind of cover basically the podiums, we had 3 podiums with like I said, we split the men's between 2 different weight divisions, and then one class for the female competitors.
Do you want to post something on the intro? Quick?
Oh yeah, no, I was just going back to sorry, Jack Palmer lifting the inch. Everyone's eyes were like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not like a big guy, but yeah, I mean, everyone was like, I mean, even me, I was like, dang. Anyway, that was impressive. And another thing was cool. It was the last event, so like, you know, so at one point we had 2 events going, and yeah. Anyway, it was just cool. We had everyone had the spotlight for 2 minutes. You know what I mean? Which I think was pretty cool, and people enjoyed. Anyway, I just want to hit those 2 things.
So my score sheet doesn't have the overall score, so I'm gonna let Zach talk about that.
So I'll start with the women's podium. So we had a first, second, and third for women's. Coming in first was Gabby Delaney with 324 points, followed by Ariana Toro with 269. And then Laura Palmer with 240 points, who was she signed up that day. And she's like, sure, I'll take third. I'll take a trophy. So that was the women's. For the lightweight men, coming in first was Matt McCall with 647 points, who's new to the game. Guy reached out to me a couple months ago, and he closed a 145 RGC gripper a couple months in, pretty strong. Watch out. And a little side story, Matt, I think he bought an inch dumbbell and had it for a couple weeks, like 2-3 weeks, sends me a message with a video of him lifting it. And I'm like, dude, I trained for a couple years to do this, and you do it in a couple weeks. Like, slow down. Anyway, just a side note, just a shout out.
That was the day before the competition, right?
Yeah. I was like,
he has an inch dumbbell medley the next day, but even the night before the competition, he's still like, man, I got to get this lift in. And I believe that was his first like full strict lift with the inch dumbbell. But so he pulled off his first like legitimate inch lift with that dumbbell, and it was the night before, and then has to roll into the competition the next day, and yeah,
not the best planning, but good for him. You know what I mean? And then second, we had Andrew Brodgen with 624 points. And then in third, Nick Johnson with 575 points, who's fairly new to the game.
Yep.
Who trains at TriFit with Andrew there.
Yeah, he just saw the posters up and was like, what is this all about? And I started talking to him about it. And like I said, all he had to really train with was the sanctioned bar that we had there, a pin, and then he had some grippers. So he just came out and did a pretty good job for his very first competition. So and then of course the heavyweight men, take that away, I guess.
Yeah, heavyweight, Jake, man, you killed it, dude. 814 points. That's roughly about 35 points more than second place. Like with the grippers and the little big horn, and I mean, yeah, above and beyond, he did great. In second, Zach Mullins with 772 points. Great performance on the inch bell, and that really separated you. And then I came in third with 752 points. And I'll just, a little side note, like, I'm not making excuses, but for anybody that runs a competition and competes, it's I have a lot of respect for you. I've seen it done, and I've never done it before, and I was like, that's probably hard. And confirmed, running a comp and lifting is not ideal. But yeah, I'm grateful I got on podium and there were no slouches. I had Hunter and I had Nate clipping at my heels, ready to take third, take the trophy. So anyway, just nod to all the promoters out there that compete, like Jed promoted everything, and he's always competing. Like nod to him and like Ricardo and a lot of those guys. So anyway, nod to them and much respect.
Yeah, it can be interesting, man. Trying to have to host and run everything on competition, just it adds a different level of difficulty to it, And but yeah, no, like I said, both you guys were hosting, both you guys ended up making the podium, so that's not bad. First competition, first time hosting, not necessarily your first time competing, but you get what I mean. But yeah, but still to kind of start this thing off and then still podium at your own thing when you're having to run around and make all the weight jumps and call things out, kind of emceeing and doing all that. One thing.
You would be amazed at how much crap I've gotten from the people at my gym about how I couldn't even manage to win my own competition. They're like, you gotta stack the deck better than that, man.
Well, you know what's funny about that is I had a friend that was kind of giving me shit about coming in second, and they're like, "Oh, there's somebody," because they know I'm pretty strong at grip, but they were like, "Oh, there's somebody just 3 hours down the road that's stronger than you at grip." Like I'm not good or something. And I'm like, yeah, it's like, man, I'm like, Jake Fuller's pretty fucking strong. What are you talking about? Like, I know who it is. Like the second competition I ever did, like I said, he was pulling big numbers. So like, that was like 3 or 4 years ago. But yeah, but I was catching stuff for my friends too, where they're just like, oh, you didn't win. Like, oh, like they see the stuff I lift and some of the feats I do. And they're just like, oh, nobody can beat this guy. And I'm like, no, dude, like when you go to a place where grip people go, and like those are the guys that specialize in it and like really train, like, dude, there's so many strong people out there. And
Yeah.
I just think they just aren't familiar with it. But yeah, I caught a bunch of stuff for not winning as well. So,
And I think the pond's definitely getting more fish as time goes on. So yeah, there's definitely people out there that are going to be coming to the surface here, but it'll be good. Makes for good competition for sure.
yeah, no, Zach, you're good. If you want to.
Yeah. So, trophies. I don't know if we put it a little bit on social media there, but Andrew, I mean, I don't know, how did this come about?
So
what were we thinking?
It was kind of like so there was a guy that I knew that did some fabrication stuff, and he had made trophies for grip stuff before. And he's out of North Carolina. He's a gripper guy, doesn't compete though. And so I reached out to him. Long story short, he literally almost died. He ended up in the hospital. I had already paid him everything. I had to go fishing, and I found Matt's Metal Works. Definitely a shout out for him because he wasn't an official sponsor, but he did the trophies, and he pulled these things off. They are freaking awesome, man. Just from doing the reel that I did where I showcased the trophies for the competition, I think our signups almost doubled just after that reel, because I remember when I saw them, I was like, man, I want to get one of those. So really, really cool. And then also, I'll mention him kind of special. We'll go through the sponsors, but Jacob Wright, that's with Some Pricks Piercing here in Greer, South Carolina. Really good buddy of mine, strongman competitor, really good guy. He was supposed to be there. He wasn't feeling well the day of the competition, had some sort of croup, so he didn't get to make it. But he ponied up the money for the trophies. So if you want a trophy, or if you wanted to win a trophy and didn't, thank Jake and Jacob Wright and Matt's Metal Works and Some Pricks Piercing and Greer. If you need a hole punched in you, that's the place to go to.
Zach, did you want to jump in on kind of breaking down some of the other sponsors? I mean,
yeah.
if you feel comfortable, I mean, going through kind of just who you guys reached out to, or who was supporting the competition and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just do a quick. I don't know. Oh, it's on the poster anyway. Yeah. Well, how about this?
No, Zach, do I edit that out or do I leave it in?
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah. What the hell is this clown doing? Anyway, I have a good idea. I'm going to go through what everybody got. I got my little cheat sheet here, Zach.
Okay. Yeah, that's
so
good.
All competitors got 50% off at dieselcrew.com, and all competitors got a $20 gift card at Nemesis Grips up in Canada. For first place, for each division, you got your gold Metal Inch Bell Lifter trophy, a $20 gift card at Fuller Barbell Co. Let me stop there. So Jake's making barbell vintage deep dish plates, and he was the official plate of the Greenville Grab. I got one right here. So if you need some vintage plates, I don't know if you can see that, get in touch with Jake there. All right. If you want to pinch a pair of these, I think he's got a bounty, right? 245s. Reach out to Jake.
Yeah.
Awesome plates. pretty, it was, I mean, it looked great on the bar, man.
It really did.
It was awesome. Anyway, thank you. So Jake sponsored $20 gift cards for first place across the board. Let's see, Shaw Strength did a $25 gift card for first place across the board. Luke at Arm Assassin did a $25 gift card for first place across the board. And then Andrew at Nemesis Grips did an additional $50 gift card for first place across the board. Devin at Eat Chalk Get Big had a bending bundle for first place. And then Iron Mind had a poster for first place. Second place, $40 gift card from Nemesis Grips. Devin did bending kit, Iron Mind poster, and then third, you had your trophy, $30 gift card at Nemesis Grips. I did a $20 gift card for the top inch bell performers. So Zach, you got one. For inch bells, I'm making inch bells and a couple other different implements. So I did three $20 gift cards. The top female gripper closer, Iron Mind had a number 2 gripper. And this leads me to the next point. We also had best body weight to strength ratio award, where you take your body weight. I think it's body weight divided by points. Anyway, because for some of the smaller guys, it's tough, right? If you're 140 and there's a guy that's 219, it's pretty tough. So I wanted that in there. That was so anyway, we did the body weight to strength ratio. Jake ended up winning it with a 3.58. That's the ratio. And then Luis Ramos, actually, he was right on his heels with a 3.57, I believe it was. So Jake got a $50 gift card from Iron Mind for the body weight to strength ratio.
And to touch on that real quick, to shout out for Luis, like you said, some of those lighter guys sometimes get at a little bit of a disadvantage when we have these kind of open weight classes, because you can only do so much. You don't want to have a weight class with just 1 or 2 people. So we killed it at 220 below and 220 and above. Then you got Luis walking in at 146 pounds. He was the lightest guy in the competition. But when you look at the numbers he put up, he was just literally 0.01 behind Jake in that ratio. So for his size, putting up some very impressive numbers, despite the fact that his final scoreboard wasn't, as high as he might would have liked. Definitely some good numbers there. And then he talked about the number. Did you mention the number 2 gripper for the top? For the top female gripper, Iron Mind gave us a number 2 Iron Mind gripper rated, or number 2 rated gripper, and Gabby ended up with that, and she came up after the competition with it in the pack, and she said her top gripper was, where's it at, 50 pounds. So she said, "Hey, is this about what I closed at the comp?" And I was like, "No, that's one for you to work toward."
Yeah.
And so she was really excited to have that one. She's going to come back and beat me next year, but she's going to be able to close that one. So I'm like, let's see it. So that was pretty cool that Iron Mind gave that for the females.
Yeah. I mean, shout out to sponsors. It's cool going to your buddy's garage and lifting and getting bragging rights, but there's something else about getting a trophy and some prizes, and it wasn't plausible without them. TriFit Barbell, they hosted us. They shut down their whole gym for us. So shout out to them. So, and then our the only one I don't think we haven't mentioned is Printed Essentials, the T-shirt that Zach so eloquently showed off a second ago. Yeah. They based right here in Greenville, South Carolina. Guy prints shirts out of his basement, but they're very, very comfortable shirts. Mine has been through the wash and the dryer, and it held up. So the shirts, obviously, we did. You got Soren. I mean, I've seen this done before, right? So I think I was down at Sorenex a couple years ago, and they had one similar. I think they had Saxon, Sandow, Sear, Louis Sear. Anyway, so that was in the back of my head, and I was like, let's pay some with respect to the guys that came before us. I didn't come up with the anvil lift. I didn't come up with all this stuff. All this stuff was paid before. And so I was like, how can we do this? And I was like, perfect. Let's get the OGs from all the lifts. So obviously at the top you got Richard Soren, who's the first guy to certify in the Ironman #3 gripper. Arthur Saxon, I believe he one hand snatched 3-inch oak plank, 92, I think it's about 90 some pounds. He did a couple other things. That's where the Saxon bar comes from. Then you got George Jowett, who supposedly, I think he's 168-pound anvil, where he might have cleaned it, supposedly.
I was saying he's definitely known for the anvil lifting and cleaning it. I think there's debates about what the weight of it was, or which anvil was cleaned a certain way, or which one was just lifted. But yeah, no big deal there. But yeah, definitely
Impressive.
Yeah. And then obviously Thomas Inch with the dumbbell, right? The 172, 2 3/8 handle, and he had some middleweights. And you know what he did, you know, another debate, right? They didn't have all these fancy 4K cameras, but you know, he supposedly cleaned and pressed it. And I mean, just to have them made and kind of put on the map is just pay homage to those guys and what they've done. And I definitely, that was a big part of the inspiration for the t-shirts.
Well, and I think it's cool that like I said, that you guys got Richard on there as well. Just, I mean, South Carolina, Soren X, I mean, it's kind of in the territory, not just from a grip standpoint, but geographically. Like, I know that a couple of you guys have been to Soren X and, check stuff out, or, done whatever. So yeah, I think that was a really cool thing to add, with that one. But yeah, like I said, that's that's all I got. You can add something.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just saying that Jake, you can chime in. We've both been there. I mean, when I first moved down here in, 2008, that was one of the first places I went, because I was messing around with the stuff, and they didn't have the building, the big headquarters they had now. And I go in there, just some random Joe, and Richard's in his office, and I think Bert's there, and he's like, "Hey man, what's going on?" I was like, "Oh, dude, man, I just want to check out some of your implements." This is 2008, and he's like, what do you want to check out?" Anyway, I'm a no name, and they got this huge company. Anyway, long story short, super gracious, giving good tips and plenty, all the time in the world. And I think he gave me some equipment that day and a t-shirt for nothing. He's like, "Dude, just take it." So like, shout out to Sornex and everything they've done and just anyway, inspired. And I don't know, I just want to share that. So I know Jake's got some good stories. If he wants to chime in.
Yeah, they've always been, they've always shown a lot of hospitality going in there. I formed a relationship with Tex through Ricardo to go pick up a Saxon bar, to get ready for the Arnold like last year. And I'm only 15 minutes down the road. So, any opportunity I had to go over there and, pick up some chalk or just walk around the living museum that's there that Richard had. And it's just very, very cool. Rest in peace to Pops, but it was really, really cool to walk around with him before he passed and talk about his history, the history of his collection, and everything he'd done for grip sport specifically is just really huge. So I implore anybody, if they're around or just going through that part of the country, to make a stop. And it's a really, really awesome place. And you did a great job of paying homage to Richard and including him on the shirt and everything. It was awesome.
Thanks, man.
All right. Yeah. So, like I said, very good stories. Like I said, I like that you're kind of adding the context to it as well. I had to mention that, like I said, you guys are in South Carolina and there's some interactions there, it's not like you're, I don't know, in the middle of nowhere and you're like, "Oh, it's kind of a cool idea. Throw the shirt together." There, I don't know, it's a little, I don't say personal, but you know what I mean? There's just a little bit more to it, just being in that area, what Richard did for grip, and then the fact that you guys are putting on this competition. Most likely without him doing a lot of the things he did, maybe none of us ever meet and maybe none of us ever compete on that same day. So I just wanted to kind of, kind of drive that point home of, I guess, how thankful we are for the stuff that he kind of did and everything like that. Aside from that, is there anything else, competition wise, or anything else that you could think of that maybe was left out or that you could touch on? Or do you feel pretty good with that?
Yeah, I'm sure at some point a lot of y'all have seen the reel, the montage of the video that got posted on Instagram. Mark J.
Yeah.
And this guy, we did not pay him. We didn't even invite him. He just showed up with a camera and put some great content together. He's put together a lot of good pictures. A really awesome reel, coolest reel I've ever been in on Instagram, that's for sure. So definitely a shout out to him. And if he ever sees this, like, you're going to get an invite to the Greenville Grab 2025, hopefully paid. You know, we're already talking about making it bigger and better next year. So yeah, his invite's already in the mail to come back.
That's kind of what I thought when I saw a dude rolling around with the camera and like taking different, film and photos. I was like, oh man, that's cool. They hired a photographer.
We literally had to go ask Logan. Shout out to Logan and Chad, owners of TriFit. We literally had to go ask Logan, who was that guy? Because we didn't know. He just kind of was there. I don't know what his connection. He's a wedding photographer by trade. I went to his page earlier today and saw the reel that he had posted. It popped back up, and he was like, "Guys, got a little something different for you. It's not a bunch of wedding photos this time." He said, "I got the opportunity to film this really cool contest." So,
well, that might be a future for him because the video editing and everything he threw together looked awesome. So,
great.
that's any competition we run, or if I'm ever doing something, you guys need to hire that guy next time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Go find. I think he's Mark J Media on Instagram. If you're in the area, you got a competition, or you just want somebody to get some cool shots of you in the gym. Because, like I said, he made me look a lot cooler than I've ever looked on video. So, shout out to him for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's really good. Like I said, you guys are giving him credit and everything. I didn't know that, so that kind of makes it even funnier. Like I said, I don't want to drag it out on you guys, but anything that you have to add? Do you think maybe I'll add one in here? Do you guys think that the next year's competition might run around the same time or same month, or any idea on that? And if it's too like premature to talk about, then yeah, we don't have to worry about it.
I jokingly said at the comp we should at least try to shoot at a time when it's not 100 degrees outside, since the gym doesn't have air conditioning. I did chat with Zach earlier this week. I said by I think we said October timeframe, we need to go ahead and try to coordinate and have another date and go ahead and start promoting. So I would say we don't really have a date yet, but Greenville Grab 2025 is definitely coming. We're hoping to make it bigger, hoping to make it better. I'll go ahead and throw it out there because we've agreed on it. If you won this year, if you were a top podium finisher this year, you've got an official invite free of charge to the Greenville Grab 2025. So Mr. Fuller, we'd love to have you back.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then Matt down the thing, and then Gabby as well. Y'all will be invited back free of charge as the champions. But yeah, we'll be bringing back Greenville Grab 2025 and looking to do it all over again.
Before I forget, another thanks. So for volunteers, we had some volunteers. We had some plate loaders and judges. So for plate loaders, I had Rob Alexander and Brent Benedict. Brent did a little plate loading and Excel spreadsheet. Shout out to my wife Alexis for manning up the Excel spreadsheet, and then Andrew got judges.
I had two of my buddies, Mike Minkler, longtime strongman competitor. He's done some judging and stuff. And then Jonathan Marks, big shout out to him because it was like literally the night before. And I called Zach. I was like, dude, we might need another judge to keep this from dragging out. And Mark signed up literally the night before the competition. He's got a good bit of experience powerlifting. He's a certified powerlifting referee and judge. So I knew he'd be good to bring on. They did a phenomenal job. I don't think I heard any complaining about like any issues with judging or anything.
No, man, from my standpoint, I thought judging ran pretty smoothly. And you usually in grip competitions, what were you saying, Zach?
Shout out to Mike, he's I guess he's a doctor. So here I am. Funny story. I'm trying to do the inch scoring, right? I'm not a mathematician, so I'm like, all right, 175 plus how many reps? So I'm out here with my little calculator trying to, I want to do it right. So before I have a chance to press enter to figure out the score, Mike's like, hey, 178. There you go. And I'm just like, but he did it like I'm grateful. But he's like, the dude's judging, and then he's putting all these numbers in his head. Mm-hmm. And like this. So anyway, shout out to Mike. Like, I'm over here trying to, Neanderthal, just, trying to punch numbers, and he's like 170, 172. And I'm like, oh, yep, 172 for Joe Smith. Anyway,
Mike's
super
got
impressive.
A PhD in like molecular chemistry engineering or something like that. Super smart guy. He's on Instagram. He's called the strongest nerd you know. So go give him a follow out there.
All right. So I was gonna say congrats to you two for kind of co-hosting this thing, getting it all set up, and then also competing in your own competition and performing well. That's a big deal. And then Jake, congrats to you on a first place finish, man. And like we mentioned before, maybe not the most famous names in all of grip, but when you see the numbers, they speak for themselves. Very good depth up there in that top 5 or 6 lifter range. So it's not like you just could show up and have a give me, you had to earn that first place victory. So hats off to you for pushing through and having a good performance there.
Appreciate it.
So for the most part on my end, I'd say that pretty much wraps up the 2024 Greenville Grab. Like I said, unless there's anything else you guys have to add last minute, then we could probably just wrap up with that.
I'm good. Just one last shout out. Appreciate you, Zach, having us on the show. And then also just for like people like you and Fuller for coming out, because it's, when you got those bigger names in grip that are willing to put on the show, it kind of gives some credence to your competition. You got some actual people there, not just a bunch of scrubs. So
oh man. Yeah, no problem. Like I said, I met Zach. I don't know if me and Jake talked too much. We might have a little bit, but I mean, I met those guys at my second competition ever, probably 3 years ago. So, and I've kind of loosely stayed in touch. Me and Zach have talked on and off. We kind of did an order for some dumbbells, and we've all sort of either stayed in touch to some extent or found our way back to communicating and then lifting again 3 years later. So, so yeah, and I'm never one of those people that, I don't know, like talking about me being a bigger name lifter to some extent, maybe I kind of am, but at the same time, I'm almost like, I'm just a regular dude. So I'm just like anybody else showing up to the competition, so yeah, I don't know. I'm just weird about that. I almost downplay everything I do half the time. So yeah, I would have came regardless, no matter what I was going to put up that day. But yeah, no, thanks for saying that.
Sure.
But yeah, like I said, I'll go ahead and I'll wrap up with that. That should be pretty good.
Perfect.
Yep. All right.